The stories in this podcast may contain content not suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Oh, welcome. I didn't hear you come in. No, it's no trouble at all. I'm always glad to see you. Please come in. Make yourself comfortable. Have a seat. I happen to have some new strange stories for you here on Madame Strangeways. Dearest strangelings, if you have a true strange story you'd like to hear narrated on the podcast, you can submit it on madamestrangeways.com or email it to madamestrangeways@gmail.com. That's Madam with an E at the end, MADAME. And if you're enjoying your time here, please share the Strangeways strangeness with a friend, or follow the podcast, or even rate or review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Rating and sharing help guide other spirits and listeners to the podcast. And now, without further ado, on to the strange stories. Encounter with a Black-Eyed Kid by Adeewun. During the winter holiday season of 2021, my partner and her son left the country to visit her father, so I was home alone with the cat and the dog. The entire day of the event was filled with strange occurrences. One example being, I walked past the front door on my way to the washroom. I looked at the door as I walked by, and it just opens by itself. So I closed the door, thinking to myself how strange the timing was. I make sure it's securely closed by trying to open it without using the handle. It doesn't budge. Satisfied, I head to the washroom and do my thing. Walking back from the washroom to the rest of the house, I pass the front door. It's open. The fucking door has opened itself, and this time the dog is barking at it. I tell him to relax, and usually he would. Not today. He finally relaxed after a few minutes of ear bleed. Fast forward 2 hours, around 1830 to 1900, and it's a nearly identical situation in that I walk past the door, close it, test it, head to the bedroom, come back to the house, and it has opened again. Dog barking again. Yada yada. Another 2 hours passes, 2100, and I'm in bed when the dog starts in again. I immediately check the front door, and thankfully it's closed. This happens every 2 hours until around 4 a.m. At 4 a.m., I'm woken by the barks, accompanied by 3 hard knocks at the door. My blood is coursing, heart about to beat straight through my chest as I look through the window to the left of the door to see who is there. There he is, a 10-ish-year-old indigenous-looking boy standing there in a jacket, wholly unremarkable in appearance, until I look for his eyes under his hood in the dark of night. Completely black from eyelid to eyelid. The conversation went roughly like this. Me, door still closed, talking through the glass. "What's up, little man?" Him. "I'm so cold. Can I come in?" Me. "Where are your parents?" Him. He just stands there, silent. He has this eerie fake smile he's showing me while just kind of nodding. He evades the question and again talks about how cold he is. Me. Do you have parents, dude? It's 4 a.m. What the hell is going on? Are you okay? Where are your mom and dad? Him. Shrugs. I tell him I can't let him in because I had COVID. I didn't end up getting it. I still wasn't convinced this wasn't a home invasion type scenario. I run to the bedroom, grab my cell phone, and dial 911. I give the dispatcher my name and address while walking back to the front door and start describing the kid. This takes maybe 15 seconds. When I get back to the front door, he's gone. I throw the door open and run out to the street, but he's gone. There's nowhere he could have gone that quickly. We live at the top of a cul-de-sac. That's basically it. I looked for my neighbors with any cameras attached to their homes and asked if they had captured anything. Only 2 homes on my street have cameras and neither got anything. One of the homes with a camera is across the street from us, and while she didn't capture any footage, she said she saw a kid walking the neighborhood a few days later in the early morning hours as she left for work. But when she got to where she saw him, he was gone. I cannot blame you for calling 911 any more than I can blame your dog for giving you ear bleed, barking constantly at the mysteriously open front door. The black-eyed kid, okay, we'll get to the black-eyed kid, but I used to have recurring nightmares about my front door being open in the middle of the night, me just walking past it and seeing my front door open. And then I would be stuck, standing there, just frozen in dread because if I close the door, is something now trapped inside with me, or are they still outside? Did someone come in? Is someone hiding, waiting for me to lock myself inside with them? Nowadays, the thing is if that happened, then they would be locked inside with me and they would need to be the one that is concerned. But that front door opening, not just once, but twice, and your dog knowing something is up with it, absolute goosebumps, completely freaks me out. And then you're kind of already set up, right? You're primed, as they would say, to be on alert and to be scared the rest of the night. So when a child shows up at your door at 4 a.m., the same door that had been randomly opening, inexplicably opening earlier that day, when a child shows up to your door at 4 a.m., if anyone is at my door at 4 a.m., I'm calling the police. But a child, especially one with entirely black eyes, and just a reminder for anyone listening that's not familiar with black-eyed kids or black-eyed children, their entire eye is black. So the whites of the eye, called the sclera, those are black. The iris is black, and the pupil, obviously black. So entirely black eyes. I mean, anybody at the door at 4 a.m. is a problem. And then they have entirely black eyes, and it sounds like a black-eyed kid. Absolutely not. 911, what is your emergency? I cannot blame you whatsoever. I also think that you actually might be onto something there with the home invasion. It's suspicious timing, right? Like it could just be a coincidence, a strange coincidence, but it could be. But I do think that maybe you're onto something there with the home invasion, whether or not it's a home invasion by normal humans or a home invasion by creatures that are either associated with men in black or demons or vampires, which are all things that people have tried to explain black-eyed kids away as. Either way, you were right to be cautious. You were right to not open the door. maybe it sounds cruel to say, well, there's a child who needs help on my front door. I'm not going to open the door. But I call that smart. I call that sensible. So good job not opening the door. And everyone listening, do not open the door to anyone at 4:00 in the morning. Just call the police. That's what they're there for. I do love that the cat was only mentioned once in the story and otherwise was just chilling, just hanging out, letting things happen, just not concerned, unconcerned. The dog's got it. No worries. No worries for the cat. You know why? Because that cat knew you weren't going to let a black-eyed kid into that house. And they were right. Because you are smart. Good job. What Made You Believe in the Paranormal by Coyote. I mean, I've always seen and experienced weird things since I was little. I saw Grandpa at his own funeral, standing right beside Grandma with his hand on her shoulder. After a minor house fire that damaged the second floor, I heard someone opening and closing my brother's dresser drawers late one night. But when I sneaked upstairs to see who it was, all I found was every drawer pulled out of the dresser and laid on the floor. There was an old abandoned house across the street from ours, with no floor for the second story. But sometimes at night, I would see a light on upstairs. All the neighborhood kids called the house the witch house because it was just weird and apparently always had been. When we moved out to our new house in the country, things really kicked into overdrive. The first night there, the whole family heard a loud bang, like something heavy being dropped on the kitchen. But when we went to look, nothing was out of place. Shadows would walk behind us and our reflections in the windows. Footsteps would pace back and forth across the roof at night. I saw a full-body apparition of a girl my age, and she saw me. You had to draw the curtains after nightfall because of the overwhelming, powerful sensation of being watched by something out in the woods around the house. My apartment in college had a poltergeist, and multiple people observed its activity, and was also haunted by several small, black, cat-like entities that we could only see in my roommate's curio cabinet mirror. Once, when I was home alone during spring break, I was in the bathroom when I heard the vanity cabinet doors opening and closing. I thought it was the kittens at first until the door handle started to rattle up and down like someone was trying to open it from the outside. This escalated to the whole door shaking violently for several seconds until it abruptly stopped, at which point I ran to the living room, grabbed the kittens, and hid in the bedroom with them for the rest of the night. The apartment I lived in with a friend several years ago had at least two separate entities. A small, white, childlike entity and a large, shadowy, angry man. Both of them were confined to the hallway and the master bedroom. The women's shelter was haunted by a teacher who had committed suicide when the building was still a school, a handful of spirits, and at least two extremely malevolent entities, one of which was attached to the now former executive director, and which took the form of either a cloud of static around him or a giant black dog, again which was witnessed by multiple people. The flop house had shadow people who lurked the hallways after dark. And while my current apartment isn't haunted per se, some strange things have still happened, like floating blue lights in one corner that fascinated my late cat Bear, and a music box that had never been wound suddenly starting to play music and stopping when I scolded it. Also, Bear, he's still around too from time to time, usually when I'm stressed or upset about something. I also have had 3 dreams that predicted the future, with payoffs ranging from a few hours after waking up to a few months out to almost 10 years later. And that's not even touching on the weird UFOs. So, yeah, it's been a lifelong thing for me. Coyote, first of all, I love hearing that Bear still visits you and can sense when you're stressed and maybe having a hard time. Like, what a good kitty. And now onto the much less warm and fuzzy parts of your story. You have seen so much in your life. It also sounds like there's been quite a bit of trauma in your life. So I'm sorry that you've had to deal with that. Sorry that you've gone through that. I think it's completely understandable that with the sheer amount of people that are all experiencing, the same types of traumas and the same types of intense, negative, stressful emotions in some of those settings, that, yeah, I think it's completely understandable that people are seeing things, picking up on negative energies. I mean, I think, after certain kinds of trauma that we're hypersensitive and hyper vigilant and constantly on high alert, looking for danger, looking for just the slightest shift in someone's energy. So, that hypervigilance that comes after those situations, I think it's completely understandable that people are seeing shadow people or that strange black entity tied to that former director at the women's shelter. Like, as if all of you are not having a hard enough time as it is. Now you need to have shadow people around. Like, shadow people, y'all, can you just read the room, please? Thank you. I think my favorite part, aside from Bear visiting you, are the little black cat-like entities that you could only see in that one mirror. And okay, I also love how you went and grabbed all of the kittens to keep them safe with you. Good job. That was smart thinking, quick thinking. I would have done the exact same thing. Step 1, collect kittens. Step 2, hide in bedroom. Can't blame you at all. And how about the witch house with that light on the second floor, even though there is no second floor? I mean, that is textbook, 100% classic, urban legend, folklore, scary story. I don't care. That is horrifying. And I never want to see that. Maybe there's an explanation. Maybe there was part of a floor and everybody mistakenly thought the whole floor was missing, but actually there was a little bit of a floor. Maybe, but maybe not. And okay, how are you just going to casually mention at the end, oh yeah, and that's not even counting the weird UFOs? Well, I would love to hear about the weird UFOs. I know you and I spoke briefly on Reddit, and, the one question I had for you was about the little black cat entities in the mirror. Well, that's just on me. That's my bad. I am easily distracted by cats. And what I should have done was asked you more about the UFO. So if you are listening and you want to share with me more of your UFO stories, feel free. You can PM me on Reddit on the thread that we were in, or you can email madamestrangeways@gmail.com. That's MADAME. We'd love to hear more from you, Coyote. And if you do share any more stories, especially about the UFOs, I would be happy to share them with the audience. Date 5/17/2024 by Oogerooger. This is actually starting to scare me. My morbid curiosity is getting me afraid. I'll probably not poke the bear for a bit. I went to Ledges State Park in Boone, about 10 minutes from where I'm living. The forest, if not sliced by Highway 30, is the same one that Mick Hose lives in. Same forest I see weird shit in. I went there tonight. Less for spooky cryptid stuff, more for camera gear testing stuff. I bought an old Sony f717. It's a camera that can easily work as a cheap night vision camera. I wanted to test it out. Lower Ledges, the area of the park you can drive through, is one way. My wife and I parked at Floodpole parking lot and walked back into the park in the opposite way traffic flows. We made it to that stone bridge that everyone takes pictures of, and my wife attempted magnet fishing. This was around 9 p.m. The sun was setting. Around 5 minutes after that, I get the feeling that we should start walking back to the car, but at a slow pace so we can continue taking photos. Around 9:30, it's black night outside now. No remnant of sunlight. We are one water crossing away from the bridge that leads to the parking lot. Maybe a 5-minute walk back to the car. And we were joking about not feeling afraid and how this is fun. We both hear the same thing. I'm not fucking joking about this. I'm not going to post this on any subs. I don't care if people don't read it or don't want to believe me. I don't want to believe me. I'm getting scared. We both hear, in a little boy's voice, "Help, I want my daddy." This was repeated 4 times at different intervals. It didn't sound normal at all. Every word was broken. The pitch was constantly changing and inconsistent. The volume changed with every word. It sounded like whatever was trying to make this sound was straining, trying to mimic the voice of a boy. I don't know how else to describe that. I'm good with words. I know that wasn't actually a little boy. It sounded sinister. It gave us chills. We started hurrying back to the car. The whole way back, we hear the increasing volume of tree branches and twigs, grass and leaves being broken and crunched as something moved through the trees very, very fast. Deer started running out of the tree line toward the road like they were running from something. I drove straight home. I'm exhausted and going to bed. Ooger, I am not sure that you are capable of not poking the bear. I think it's in your nature. So I will not be shocked if I jump on Reddit, catch up on your posts, and see that you have in fact had more experiences after this one. I hope that you haven't, because you and your wife and your 2 dogs deserve peace and quiet. Now, we've heard from Oogerooger previously in previous episodes about his experiences and encounters with these unknown creatures. I think he has described them as crawlers, but I don't know that we'll actually ever know what these things are that he's seeing. But he has seen pale, hairless, lanky, strange creatures. He has seen what he's described almost as hairless male lions walking like gorillas, stalking him in both instances. He has seen what I think the internet would call a not deer, wherein it was not acting like a deer, it was acting strange, and it was also following him. So he is attracting a whole lot of paranormal and unexplained phenomena This one, though, is, to me, not having experienced any of these things for myself, to me, this one is honestly the scariest. This one is the most insidious, like this voice trying to lure you and your wife closer, attempting to mimic the realistic sound of a human boy in distress. What these creatures do not count on, though, is that we are not stupid. We are not gullible, and we are not falling for their ghostly, cryptid nonsense. Just like in Adeewun's story earlier, on its face, it might sound cruel, again, to not try to help whoever was asking for help out there. But also, you don't know what's waiting for you. It could be an ambush. It could have been, not something paranormal. This could have been, humans trying to lure you. And I think that y'all were smart to not go any further, not deviate off the path, and to just get the heck out of there. On the other hand, sure do hope that no one was in trouble and having a stroke or some other medical emergency that just makes them sound wrong and inhuman. So, maybe in those situations, maybe we run to safety, and maybe we also just call the police. I know that you're in rural Iowa, so maybe that's not how the police work out there. Maybe it's a little different. Maybe there's a little bit of a stigma that you might have if you call them and say, I'm hearing this weird voice out in the woods. And, I don't know what the situation is, but all I can say is obviously in these situations, everyone should get themselves to safety and not put themselves in danger attempting to, be a good Samaritan or be a good person. You can also call for help. So I'm glad that y'all got out of there okay. And I do hope that things have been quiet for you, Ooger and your wife and your doggies. I'm just not super confident that it has been quiet, although keeping my fingers crossed for y'all. Thank you to Adeewun, Coyote, and Ooger for submitting your stories. And thank you so much for stopping by for such a lovely, spooky time. You're always welcome here. It's perfect timing, really. Looks like the rain just stopped. Now, remember, if any of the strangeness scared you, remind yourself that you can feel afraid and not be in danger. You're safe here with me. Until next time. Madame Strangeways is produced and narrated by me, Madame Strangeways. Theme music is by Marina Ryan at marinamakes.co. You can submit your own strange story at madamestrangeways.com or send in your thoughts or theories on the stories in this episode to madamestrangeways@gmail.com. Thank you for listening.